All right. So today we're going to talk about some Fanduel plays and build some lineups so we can get this week 0 off to a hot start and try to take down the wishbone. Let's look at the quarterback positions first. I'll pull up my projections. All right. So starting out, looking at player pool, we're going to want to limit our player pool to this week. Avery Johnson is a fine play. Jalen Daniels, fine play. I would throw Rocco on the back end of the pool. If you want to play him, you can. I'm probably not playing Rocco, and there's a reason for that. So Maverick McIver and Micah Alejado are going to be the last two in my pool. But they're going to make up the bulk of my player pool. They're going to be my top two mainstays in each lineup. I'm going to have 50% of my lineups are going to be McIver paired with Alejado. Alejado's far too cheap. I'm going to probably end up around 70% Alejado, 70% McIver, and I'll probably have 20% Avery, 20% Daniels if I was to guess. Rocco, he's not mobile compared to Avery and Daniels. And then Alejado is similar with more passing upside, and McIver just has massive ceiling as a passer. Hunter Watson, not going to be playing him. He sounds like he might split some time with maybe Mettauer, who was brought in with Phil Longo. EJ Warner's just not a good player. They only have like a sub 20 team total in that game, the lowest on the slate. So I'm probably going to fade most of Fresno on FanDuel because you kind of got as much money as you want. And Ben Goldbranson is just absolutely terrible. He's in play on TK maybe, but I'm kind of reserving him for Showdown. I want to stick to these big boys. And so we'll just lock in McIver, and then we're going to lock in Alejado because you want to play a quarterback in the Superflex, especially this week when you have all the money in the world. In this first team, we'll lock that in. Running back wise, player pool, Dylan Edwards, 100% in the player pool. Daniel Highshaw is probably going to end up being my highest owned running back. I think they're going to try to limit Jalen Daniels rushing in this game with 33-ish point team total. And Highshaw, he's a versatile back. We've seen him without Devin Neal, and he's been good, but Devin Neal was a workhorse. I think he loses a little bit of that workhorse capability with LaShawn Williams coming over from Iowa. But ultimately, I'm going to want a ton of Daniel Highshaw. I'm a big believer in him. I think when he gets the opportunity, he's going to take off and run away with it. And the depth chart proved that by not having an or there. He is the solo starter. Elijah Green, probably in your player pool. Sam Houston, Phil Longo, they tried to do their dangest to throw everybody off the scent as far as the depth chart goes. It came out yesterday, and it was an abomination. None of the transfer running backs were even on it. And you had like 3 of the 5 starting offensive linemen were not starters. And then Cuevas, their wide receiver, top wide receiver, wasn't like he was the number 2. So he was a backup. So by all reports, it was a fake document to say the least. And then Western Kentucky did, at least give us a numerical order depth chart. So we appreciate that. Landon Sims, Hawaii, they chucked the ball. There's no shot I'm touching him at that price tag. Carson Hansen is in play. There are scenarios. I think I'll have limited exposure. I think there are ways that he gets a couple goal line touchdowns, 2 or 3 of those. There is a world where that happens. So he is in play. He's just not my favorite running back. I'm going to tend Donaldson for Fresno. He projects well. I just don't believe it. So I'm going to stay away from that. And then Micah Ford is definitely the best cheap running back, in my opinion. He's definitely the starter there for Stanford. They should be able to manhandle Hawaii, or have a better chance of manhandling Hawaii, because that team's pretty terrible up front with the lack of a pass game of Gold Branson. I expect Ford to be a top contender and one of the better plays on the slate. If this was a full slate, we'd be playing a ton of him. LaShawn Williams, like I said, you could take shots there if you want to try to get off track there. And then Joe Jackson's an interesting one. I'm going to play a ton of him in Showdown, so I'm going to tend to kind of stay away from Joe Jackson in the main slate. And I'm going to end up playing a ton of Edwards, Highshaw, and Ford, just based off of what projections say and the relative ease that you can fit guys in. So let's plug the top two in, and then looking at wide receiver to get our player pool. I think Jace Brown can be in your pool. I just don't love him. I know he has some upside. He's just very boomer bust, right? So I think you can throw a couple shots. I just wouldn't go overboard there. Pafeli Ashlock 100% is in my pool. He's going to be, if he can bounce back from his, towards his freshman season numbers, he's going to end up being somebody you're going to want to have in your lineup this week. And he'll be a guy that I pair a lot with Alejado. And then Sinakal, similarly, you're going to want to pair with Alejado. You can double down with those two. And then Matthew Henry, I think, is a good play he comes from Western Illinois, had a very good season there. I think he has the upside to be the number one, if not, in worst case, he's the number two for Western Kentucky. He's a good pairing with McIver. I'm going to want to double stack with these guys plenty. Chase Soule, definitely in the pool. He is going to be the top target for me for Iowa State. I think that's the way that they're going to end up attacking. And he'll be good in the red zone with his big frame. So he'll be a guy in play for me. Quavez Humphreys, similarly, is in play. KD Hutchinson in play. He could easily be the number one wide receiver at Western Kentucky. He's the top returner in that offense. So you're going to want to take some shots there. And other than him, I would say the only other play down here on FanDuel specifically, because you're going to have to take shots on DK. Like Xavier Townsend could be in play, but I'm just not going there. If you were going to double stack Rocco, then sure. Emmanuel Henderson for Kansas, he's in play for me. You don't need to save the salary. I don't think it hurts to leave salary on the table this week. I just kind of want to pair him with I'm going to take some shots, but I'm going to pair him some with Jalen Daniels, because I think that's the way that Daniels gets home over here. So, for instance, in this first team, pull this. So we got those guys in. Wide receiver wise, let's just say we're gonna stack up Hawaii. I think Jackson Harris also in play in this situation. So, and then just take a shot with KD Hutchinson. You want to play Quavez here, that's fine. He's in play as well, but given that I have McIver and that's a full pass offense, I'm going to want a share of that Western Kentucky offense. For him to be successful, it's going to be through the pass game. He's not a runner, so he's going to need to throw some touchdowns. I'm going to bank on Hutchinson in this situation. So let's save that bad boy. And then let's get a new one. So lineup one in. So then let's variant off of that. And then try to get something else in here. So let's do an Avery Johnson team. So Avery Johnson, make sure you put your guys who start, and this is number one rule of thumb. Whoever's in your super flex needs to be your latest player, period. So we'll throw Alejado in there. So I'm going to run back. I'm going to want Highshaw here. And let's just say we're going to go with Micah Ford. I'm going to like that. Yep, perfect. So then that way I get Alejado with a bring back in Ford. So hopefully Ford's able to run for couple hundred yards, 2 touchdowns. And then I want a bring back on Avery Johnson. So I'm going to go Chase Sewell in this one. And then we'll double down with the Hawaii boys, Sanako and Ashlock. So we get good stacking here with the triple. And then you could go three deep too and go Jackson Harris here, go 3 wide on that for Hawaii. But I think going with a double in this situation, given the short slate, a triple is in play. But I would play a double, and then you don't have to, full stack, double stack. We're going to do some single stacking. But ultimately I want to get Hishaw, and I'm trying not to play in this situation. You could go up to Dylan Edwards here. Maybe Avery Johnson hits him for 2 touchdown passes, but trying to max out Hishaw here, I'm looking to get, all 2 or 3 touchdowns out of the KU side of that game. So that is good. And then let's look at a let's do another Avery, but let's hit McIver with him. So in this situation, we'll go with another Hishaw and Ford combo. Like I said, I'm trying to stick to those guys. I think you can play Elijah Green. I'm just not sure, what the deal is going to be there. In this situation, let's go Matthew Henry. I want to get some exposure to him. I'm kind of trying to split my exposure on Henry and Hutchinson across the board and just kind of spread them out. I will play some doubles of them. And then similarly, like if I'm playing one of Ashlock and Sanako, I'm playing one of them. I'm going to try to split my exposure. But most of the time, I'm going to want to double stack those guys if I do decide to play 2 Hawaii, a double, because they're going to end up being they're the guys that I'm most confident in, we'll say, because they're proven commodities for that group. So let's throw Chase Sewell in, and then that's going to land me Nick Sanako, all good there. So then I kind of get a single stack here. I don't need to stack Avery Johnson because of his rushing capability, and he's just as likely to throw 2 touchdowns to a tight end as he is, and run one in or throw one to a running back as he is to throw him to wideouts. So he's not necessarily a guy that I'm looking to stack. Jace Brown's his best option. He's just not the biggest Jace Brown guy. So, all right. All right, let's go back to the fun that is the McIver and Alejado group, because I'm going to play a ton of that. And a lot of them are going to have Edwards and Hishaw. So I'm going to have a ton of Joe Jackson in a number of spots. Like I said, this just might not be one of them. Edwards is so explosive. I think you can throw some Joe Jackson, and likely later in the week, I might split some Joe Jackson into these teams and just leave $3,000-$4,000 of salary on the table, just on the off chance that they get in the red zone, they get inside the 5, and Joe Jackson punches 2 or 3 in. You're going to have massive leverage on the field, because most of the field's going to play Edwards in this spot and not play Joe Jackson. So you can get a ton of leverage there. So let's do a double on Western Kentucky. So we'll go KD, and then we can rip Ashlock. I think this is going to be a very popular build right here, with either this or the because it uses all the salary, or with Sanako in this Henry spot, with people knowing that Sanako is more likely, we'll say. So there might be some leverage, by getting Henry there potentially. Your multi-inner guys are going to be that way. I mean, the best way to get different on a slate like this is going to be to get to leave 3K on the table or 2K on the table, leave some salary. That's how you're going to have to get different. And it's a winning strategy given that there's just incorrect pricing this week. You got some wild stuff out here. All right, let's hit another Alejado. This one, same type deal. Edwards, Highshaw. And then let's look at, I'm going to have two more of these. So I'm going to differentiate with some Ford over Edwards or Jackson over Edwards in those situations. I just want a ton of Highshaw though. Big fan this week. So wide receiver wise, let's go with, double check. Yeah, so no double on this. So let's do no double stack on this. Let's hit Soul, Sinacle, and then we can hit. See, I think Cuevas is a good play here, but I need to get I'm playing Soul or Cuevas. I want to play Soul. That gives me a bring back here and then a stack on each. I like that from the upside there. So that gets me a little bit different in that mindset. All right. And we're going to have some weird stuff at the end of this. So let's see. All right, let's do some Jalen Daniels because I think there is upside. Whenever he is healthy, there is some upside. Let's get Alejado. And then running back wise, let's take Dylan Edwards. And then this is where I wanted to get different. So in order for Daniels to max out, I'm going to buy the projection here and take one share. I don't love it. I'm probably avoiding it completely on DK. But I want a share of this just to protect myself. Because if Donaldson has a big game, let's just say he does. Given how he's projecting, he could be good. Daniels is going to have a good game. So if Daniels has a big game, Donaldson has a big game, and they push one another, that's a game that you could stack and get a little bit different. And then I'm still getting a base stack. Everybody's going to have a ton of Alejado, right? So if I go get my guy Henderson here, so Emmanuel Henderson, transfer from Alabama, generating a lot of camp buzz. If you have overs in your area, bet the over on Emmanuel Henderson. It's a good play. And then now I can take Henderson and then boom, Sinacle and Ashlock. Which on one of these last couple teams, when I start throwing some stuff in here, I want to make sure that I get some where's he at? Where is he at? Jackson Harris. So Jackson Harris is at 4,900. He's a transfer from Stanford. He's going to be the third guy in the room. I think he's worth taking some shots on, similarly to Joe Jackson at running back. But there's options there. So there you go. Double stack, single with Emmanuel Henderson. I like that. That gives me some options. Which, I mean, as you can see, on FanDuel, you're just playing however you want. The big issue is going to be on DraftKings. DraftKings, it is tight. And there's going to be an advantage for finding that lower priced guy who can produce. A lot of the same plays are in play. It's just Alejado on here. Realistically, Alejado should have been 4K or at least 3K more expensive. So for him to come in at that price tag was awful, we'll say. It was poor. McIver even coming in at 10 was probably a little poor. Rocco probably should have been the more 10K guy, and McIver should have been in this like 10.5, 11K range. Like, he's underpriced. It's just things that you get used to with these guys. So on this one, I wanted to get a little bit different. So I'm going to go Highshaw here on the back of, I've seen Jalen Daniels throw touchdowns to his running backs. I think it's in play. You know what? Changed my mind. I changed my mind. I'm going Elijah Green here because of no, I want Cuevas. Okay, I changed my mind again. Sorry. Yeah, we're going Highshaw. I think there is a world where you should go Micah Ford there, but it's fine. Yes, Jalen Daniels does look 40 years old, and he plays like a 40-year-old with his back. I agree with that, Yeti. So let's look at, I want Matthew Henry. I want Quay Humphreys. And then that gets me Emmanuel Henderson. So that's just trying to get a ton of Kansas stack. Go heavy on Kansas. Get some Western Kentucky game in here. And then Dylan Edwards to pop. So that if we can get like a 32-point game, you get 4 touchdowns for Kansas. Figure Daniels, if you can get Daniels to run one in, Daniels throws one to Henderson. Highshaw gets 2 somehow. There's your 4 touchdowns. You account for everything. And it's a fairly concentrated offense, mostly, given what we saw. If Henderson takes over for that Luke Grimm spot, I would like that a good bit. All right. The one team that let's do the one team I am going to not play freaking either of the big quarterback or the McIver or Alejado on. It's going to be a Avery Johnson, Jalen Daniels team. So in this scenario, I think you can play Edwards. I'm going to try to stay away from that. Let's go Ford and Elijah Green. Get a little bit different on this. I do not want Jace Brown, but I might end up playing him here. Definitely want Henderson. Fine, I'll play Jace Brown. I don't want to, but I will. In this situation, I kind of want a bring back for that. Oh, you know who's a good play here? Never mind. We're not playing that game. There you go. Let's play Carson Hansen. There you go. There's my bring back. So that way Carson Hansen manages to somehow score 2-3 goal line touchdowns in a weird world. And then that can work out. And then let's just go with Sinakle. I kind of like him a little bit more. I like Ashlock on PPR a bit more. So leave a little on the table. We'll play Jace Brown for once. We'll play Carson Hansen for once. We'll take our one shot that game goes a little bit wonky and do that. Okay. So we got Ford, Hansen, Henderson, Brown, and Sinakle. All right. And then let's do two big boys of Alejado and McIver to round it out. So I want to get a Jackson Harris. So I want to leave some money on the table here. Let's go running back. Give me, don't mind Elijah Green actually, but give me Highshaw and Ford here. And then I'll play Joe Jackson in the next one. Because I'm going to play a ton of Ford on DK. See, I've got all the money in the world here. You know what? Let's go cheap. Let's go here. Cuevas, I'm going to go with Phil Longo, Peppers, his slot wide receivers. Seen it with Josh Downs. Seen it with Will Pauling. Derry Raid didn't work out, but, happens. Let's go Ashlock. Why not? See, I'm going to leave 4,200 on the table, and I got no problem doing that. I have zero issue with that whatsoever, throwing that away. I think in the next instance, we're going to do something similar, but I'm just going to end up with instead of Cuevas, I'll probably go Matthew Henry, Sinakle, and Chase Soul right here. And instead of Highshaw, we can go, or no, we can't go there, but we'll Actually, you know what? Here, instead of Highshaw, let's do this. Give me Dylan Edwards here. Why not? Change it up a little bit. We'll go Dylan Edwards there. Yeah. All right. And then just check your player exposures. Make sure you don't end up being overexposed to somebody. I mean, it just depends how much you believe in them. Like Alejado, I believe so much in that kid that I'm just have no concerns whatsoever. So I don't mind running him out there a whole ton. Let's go here. Highshaw. I just cannot play Elijah Green. Just have this thing about it. Highshaw I trust a lot more. I don't trust that. I don't trust Phil Longo and that coaching staff whatsoever. Let's take Joe Jackson for the heck of it. Why not? All right, give me Matthew Henry. Give me Sinacle. And where was he? What was I thinking on that? Henry, Sinacle. Oh. I wanted to play the other kid. Where's he at? That was who I wanted. I wanted Jackson Harris. Yeah. So play something different. So, like, I mean, we're leaving 6,200 on the table. I don't know if I like that. I might go. Give me Carson Hansen. Why not? We'll play that he locks some things in there. I don't trust Abu Sama. He stinks. So, yeah. So you could throw some different stuff in, throw some stuff around here. You could throw Jace Brown in this spot. I mean, that's fine. He fits. Yeah, I'm up to Jackson Harris there. Here, let's just say that. Boom. So that way I get those two going against one another. I get the stack. I get the stack. Boom. Perfect. So that wraps up FanDuel. Entries are in. I'll double check everything, make sure everything's good, but we will be back tomorrow to go over the DK slate, which is one heck of a strange ride, we'll say, because you're going to have to find some 3K, 4K guys, some low-end crappers on a short slate with 3 games, and that's not the easiest to do. So we'll see you. Bye.